The Little Prince, Chapter 1. When I was 6 years old, I had a book on rainforests called True Stories from Wild Life. In it, there was an amazing drawing of a snake swallowing up an animal whole. This is a copy done by me of that picture. Here's what it said in the book. Boa constrictors swallow their prey completely whole, without chewing at all. Afterwards, they can't even move, and in order to digest what they have eaten, they have to sleep for a whole 6 months. I thought long and hard about all this and managed to draw a picture of a snake in color pencils. It was my first ever drawing, my drawing number 1, and it looked like this. I showed my masterpiece to some grown-ups and asked them if my drawing frightened them. They all said much the same thing. Why should a picture of a hat frighten us? But my drawing was not of a hat. It was of a boa constrictor who had eaten an elephant. So I then drew a picture of how the insides of such a boa constrictor might look, so that the grown-ups might understand. Grown-ups always need things explained to them. My drawing number 2 looked like this. The grown-ups told me I should not waste my time doing any more drawings of boa constrictors, whether of their insides or outsides, but in future concentrate more on geography or history or on mathematics or grammar. I was so upset at this response to my drawing number 1 and my drawing number 2 that I abandoned them. At the age of 6, any hopes I might have had of becoming a great painter. Grown-ups seem to understand nothing for themselves. It is very boring for children always to have to explain things to them. So since I could not be an artist, I had to choose another profession. I took up flying. I became an aeroplane pilot. I have flown just about all over the world. So it is true my geography has been very useful. With just a glance, I can always recognize where I am. I can easily tell the difference between China and Arizona, and this is very helpful. I find when I am up there, flying through the night, and not at all sure of where I am. In my lifetime of flying around the world, I've met lots of interesting people. I have lived most of my life amongst grown-ups and had the chance to get to know them. I have to say this experience has not greatly improved my opinion of them. When I do meet one of these grown-ups who seems a little bit more enlightened, I make it my business to try out on them a little experiment. I show them my drawing number 1 and my drawing number 2, which I have still kept until this time. I do this just to see how much they really understand, and always, without fail, they say, "It's a hat." So then I don't bother to talk to them about boa constrictors, nor rainforests, nor stars. I talk about what I know they are interested in: bridge, golf, politics, and ties. They know they are talking to the right kind of person, and they are happy. Chapter 2. So it was that I lived much of my life on my own, with almost no one to speak to. That is, until 6 years ago when I was forced to crash land my plane in the Sahara Desert. Something had gone wrong with my engine. I had no mechanic with me and no passengers. I was alone. Somehow I had to find some way of repairing my engine. It was a question of life or death. I had only enough water left for 8 days. The first night I lay down to sleep on the desert sand, knowing I was thousands of miles from the nearest living person. I was even more alone than a shipwrecked sailor lying on a raft in the middle of the wide, wide ocean. Imagine my surprise when I was woken at dawn by a strange small voice. "Excuse me," the voice said, "but I was wondering if you could draw me a sheep, please." "What?" "A sheep. I want you to draw me a sheep." I leapt to my feet, as if I had been struck by lightning. I rubbed my eyes to be quite sure they were not deceiving me. No, I had seen what I had seen. An extraordinary-looking little fellow was standing there, scrutinizing me intently. This is the best portrait I did of him a while later, but my drawing, it has to be said, is not nearly as good or as beautiful as he was in real life. That's not my fault, though. If you remember, when I was 6, I had been rather put off following my intended career as a painter by discouraging grown-ups. After that sad experience, I had never really learnt to draw anything else except boa constrictors, the insides and outsides of boa constrictors. So anyway, I stood there looking at this amazing and incongruous apparition, wide-eyed with wonder, as you can imagine. You must not forget that I was thousands of miles from any human habitation, and yet this little fellow did not seem lost at all. He wasn't dying of exhaustion or hunger or thirst, and he did not look frightened in the least. He just did not look like a lost child in the middle of the desert 1,000 miles from anywhere. "What on earth are you doing here?" I asked him, when at last I had got over my surprise and found my voice. But he simply repeated his strange request, very softly, very sweetly, and in complete seriousness. "Excuse me, but I was wondering if you could draw me a sheep, please." This whole situation, what he was asking me, was so utterly absurd that somehow I could not say no. I knew that it was equally absurd 1,000 miles from anywhere and anyone and in serious danger of dying out there in the desert to be taking a piece of paper and pen out of my pocket. I told this little fellow, rather impatiently I fear, that my studies had included geography, history, mathematics, and grammar, but not drawing, that I really was not much good at drawing. "That does not matter," he said. "Don't worry about that. Just draw me a sheep." So because I had never drawn a sheep, I did instead one of the only two drawings that I knew I could do, one of my boa constrictor drawings, the one with the swallowed elephant inside. I was amazed at his reaction. No, no, no," he cried. "I didn't want to draw I didn't want a drawing of an elephant inside of a boa constrictor. A boa constrictor is very dangerous, and as for an elephant, it is huge and would always get in the way. At home, where I come from, everything is small. I need a sheep. Draw me a sheep." So I drew him a sheep. He took one look at it, and then he said, "No, that's not good at all. It looks already rather poorly to me. Do me another." So I did. My young friend smiled, but rather patronizingly, I thought. I'm afraid to have to tell you that this is not a sheep. It is a ram. It has horns." I did the drawing again, but he rejected it just as he had before. "That one is too old. I want a sheep who will live for a long time." By now I had enough of all of this. I had no more time to waste. My engine needed stripping. Stripping down, I had to get on with it. So very quickly I sketched this drawing and showed it to him. "There you are," I told him. This is his box. The sheep you want is inside it." I was of course expecting another rejection. So you can imagine my surprise when I saw that his eyes were bright with enthusiasm. "That's just what I wanted. Do you think a sheep like this will need a lot of grass?" "Why do you ask?" "Because I told you where I live everything is rather small, and there's not much room to grow a lot of grass." "It'll be fine," I told the little fellow. "I have drawn you a tiny, tiny little sheep." He leant forward and looked closely at the drawing now. "Not so tiny as all that," he said. "Would you believe it? The sheep, he's fallen asleep." And that was how I first got to know the little prince.